I walked into my daughter's house carrying a casserole and the same stupid hope I'd carried for 5 years. The house smelled like cinnamon and fake peace, the kind of peace people stage for Instagram. Emily stood by the tree, wringing her hands like a child caught doing something wrong. Dylan leaned against the kitchen island like a king who thought he owned the kingdom. He didn't. I did. Every inch of that house had my money under it like plumbing. "Mom, you're early," Emily whispered. "I came to help with dinner," I said. Like always. Dylan didn't even bother pretending to be polite. "Yeah, about that." He straightened his shirt. A shirt I paid for, by the way. "We aren't expecting you for Christmas." That's how he said it. Flat, sharp, like he was cutting a rope and watching me drop. I stared at him. "Excuse me?" Emily wouldn't look at me. Dylan loved that. He liked having the upper hand for once in his underachieving life. "My parents want a private Christmas," he said. "Just us. Our tradition." He dragged out the word "our," like he was carving me out of my own family. I glanced around the room. The hardwood floors? Me? The $2,000 mixer behind him? Me? The cabinets, the dining table, the chandelier, the damn rug? All me. A museum of things paid for by the woman they were pushing out the door. "So I'm suddenly not family?" I asked. Dylan smirked. "It's nothing personal. People change. Traditions change." "Coward's language," Emily mumbled. "Mom, it's just how this year is." "How this year is?" I repeated. "Right." My fingers tightened around the casserole dish. It wasn't heavy. What was heavy was the realization that I had been stupid, blind, practically funding my own eviction from my daughter's life. I walked past Dylan into the kitchen. My kitchen. The one I had written checks for while he focused on his dreams. The stainless steel appliances, my retirement money. The island, my emergency savings. The backsplash, my credit card debt. I touched the counter slowly, not because I was emotional, but because I was taking inventory of everything they owed me. Dylan scoffed. "Don't be dramatic, Helen." I turned to him. I raised a daughter who wasn't raised to talk this way. He shrugged. "Well, she married up." There it was, the truth behind everything. Evelyn's voice inside his head. Married up. Meaning, Emily married into a family that thinks they're better than the woman who bailed her out for half a decade. "So it's Evelyn telling you to do this," I said. "It's our decision." He snapped too quickly. Emily's eyes said otherwise. I held her gaze. "You're really telling me to leave?" She whispered, "Mom, please don't make this harder." Harder? Harder than being told to go home alone on Christmas by the man whose bills I paid? I set the casserole on the counter. The dish clattered louder than I expected. Dylan flinched like I'd thrown it at him. I wish I had. I walked to the living room. The Christmas tree sparkled. Expensive ornaments, designer stockings, custom wreath, all the things Emily loved but could never afford, all paid for by me. And now I was being escorted out of the life I'd financed. Dylan folded his arms. "Look, Helen, it's simple. We're not expecting you." The repetition was deliberate, degrading, a slap repeated until it bruised. Emily stepped forward, voice trembling. "Mom, it's only this year. Maybe next year." I cut her off. "Don't insult me." She froze. I looked at both of them. Not as their mother, not as their doormat, as the woman who built the foundation they were standing on. "You could have told me sooner," I said. "We didn't want drama," Dylan replied. "And now you have it," I said. "Congratulations." He rolled his eyes. "Don't guilt trip us. We deserve a Christmas without pressure." Pressure? That's what they called my existence now? I grabbed my coat from the hook. They watched me, waiting for the tears, the begging, the humiliation. They had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. That version of me died the moment Dylan opened his mouth. Emily stepped closer. "Mom, please." "No," I said. "You made a choice." Dylan smirked again. Glad you understand. I walked to the door. My hand hit the knob. Then I turned and looked them both dead in the eyes. Emily looked crushed. Dylan looked bored. Good. I prefer people showing their true faces. I said 6 words. 6 words that wiped the smirk off Dylan's face faster than a slap. Tell your mother I said hello. Emily gasped. Dylan's face twitched. Good. Truth stings. I opened the door. The cold wind hit me like a wall, but it felt honest, something I hadn't felt in that house for years. As I stepped out, I heard Dylan call after me. Helen, don't be childish. I didn't turn around. Childish? No. Childish was letting them treat me like a bank account with a pulse. I walked down the steps. Nice. Each step felt like shedding a year of being used. Forgotten. Controlled. Bought when they needed something. Ignored when they didn't. At the bottom of the driveway, I stopped. Not because I was emotional. God, no. I stopped because I wanted to remember the exact moment I stopped being the mother they could walk all over. The moment I decided to take the one thing they depended on more than my presence, my money. I got into the car. I closed the door slowly, deliberately. The kind of calm before the storm that makes the sky hold its breath. Emily and Dylan had no idea what was coming. They thought they excluded me from Christmas. They had no idea they had just declared war. The cold didn't bother me, not compared to what just happened inside that house. The wind hit my face, but my face was colder. I walked to my car like a woman coming back from a funeral, except the thing being buried wasn't me. It was my patience. My phone buzzed the second I shut the door. Emily. Then Dylan. Then Emily again. I let it ring. Again. I didn't even look at the screen. Their panic was nothing compared to the humiliation they thought they'd handed me. I started the engine. The heat kicked in, but my hands stayed frozen on the wheel. Not from the weather, but from rage so sharp it felt like glass in my veins. I drove down their street. The same street I'd helped them move into. The same street where I'd painted fences, carried boxes, fixed leaks, babysat, cooked, cleaned, and paid bills while Dylan strutted around pretending he was building a future built with my bank account and Emily's fear of disappointing her husband's perfect mother. My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail. Dylan's voice, frantic. Helen, don't leave like that. We weren't trying to insult you. Just call us back. He should have saved his breath. I turned the corner and passed the row of houses where every payment they'd missed I had covered. 5 years of it. 5 years of patching holes in their finances while they punched holes in my dignity. A red light stopped me. I looked at the houses around me, clean driveways, decorated porches, glowing Christmas lights. I whispered, all on my dime. And the truth landed like a hammer. I had paid for their life, and they had used that life to cut me out of it. My chest tightened, not from sadness, that part of me died back at their front door, but from the realization that I had willingly handed Dylan everything he needed to disrespect me. 5 years of bills, 5 years of groceries, 5 years of repairs, 5 years of, Mom, can you help us just this once? 5 years of watching Emily shrink into someone Evelyn would approve of. My phone buzzed again. This time I answered, not to talk, but to listen. Emily's voice came through immediately, shaking. Mom, please pick up. Dylan didn't mean to sound harsh. We thought you'd understand. I hung up. I didn't owe her comfort while she let her husband humiliate me in a house I practically built. I kept driving, street after street. Every block had something I'd paid for. A memory I didn't want. A sacrifice they never appreciated. I drove past the flooring store where I'd chosen the wood for their living room. The darker one, Mom, Emily said then. It'll look expensive. It had, because it was. Next, I drove past the appliance shop where Dylan demanded the upgraded stove for his holiday roast. He had never cooked a meal in his life. Then the bank, the place where I'd signed the papers that drained my savings for their down payment. I remembered the loan officer handing me the pen. Are you sure you want to do this, Ms. Whitmore? It's a large risk. I'd smiled like an idiot. It's for my daughter. And now that same daughter couldn't even look me in the eye while her husband threw me out like trash. The light turned green. I drove home. Not the home I gave up for Emily, but the small, aging, quiet house I'd kept for myself. A house no one ever thanked me for keeping intact while I paid everyone else's bills. I parked in my driveway. My porch light flickered, a repair I'd been putting off because I was too busy fixing their problems. The wind picked up, strong enough to blow my coat against my legs. The cold stung my eyes, but no tears came. I was long past tears. I stood on my porch. My house looked small compared to theirs, older, dimmer, but it was mine, paid by me, kept by me, respected by no one but me. I put my hand on the railing, and something ugly and honest came out of my mouth. 5 years, I said. Stolen. The word echoed across the quiet street. Stolen birthdays, stolen holidays, stolen money, stolen pride. All because I believed being a mother meant being a martyr. Not anymore. I opened my front door. The house was cold inside, silent. But the silence felt cleaner than the fake warmth I'd just walked out of. I put my keys down. My hands were shaking, not from hurt, but from clarity. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. Dylan, sounding irritated now. Helen, you're acting childish. Come back. Emily's upset. We didn't say you couldn't ever come. We said today wasn't... I deleted it. My silence was going to scare him more than any argument. I took off my coat, hung it up, and walked into my kitchen. My old linoleum, my chipped cabinets, my peeling paint. No marble, no granite, no stainless steel. But no Dylan, no Evelyn, no rules, just me. I leaned on the counter and took a long breath. Steady, slow, controlled. Then I said one word that tasted like steel. Enough. That was the moment everything shifted. Not outside, inside me. The second I said it, something clicked into place like a switch being flipped. Enough being used. Enough being polite. Enough paying bills nobody thanked me for. Enough letting Dylan talk to me like I was beneath him. Enough letting Emily make me the villain to keep her husband happy. If they wanted a Christmas without me, fine. I was about to give them a life without me. The kind they weren't prepared for, the kind that cost money they didn't have. I turned off the kitchen light. Tomorrow, I would take back every dollar, every sacrifice, every year. Tomorrow, I would start with the one thing Dylan feared most, control. The next morning, the cold hadn't lifted. Neither had the anger. It sat in my chest like a stone, heavy, solid, impossible to ignore. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and listened to the silence. No apologies, no explanations, just the long echo of a daughter who let her husband speak for her. My phone was on the table, face down. It buzzed at 7:13 a.m. Emily. I let it buzz. 7:15 a.m. Dylan. I let it buzz louder. 7:17 a.m. Unknown number. Probably Evelyn. I smiled. I didn't pick up. Instead, I opened the drawer where I kept the folder I never wanted to touch again. The one with 5 years of bank statements, receipts, loan documents, and every stupid transfer I'd made just to keep Emily's life from collapsing. I spread everything across the table. 5 years of proof that I'd been the only adult in that family. Bills I'd paid, repairs I'd funded, down payments I'd carried, a lifestyle I'd built while they treated me like an inconvenience. I tapped the first bank statement with my finger. $3,100, I said out loud, every month for 5 years. 15 payments a year, 15 little pieces of dignity peeled off me like skin, 15 ways of saying, Mom will fix it. Not anymore. The doorbell rang. Once, twice, then 3 hard pounds. Dylan's signature knock, the one that said he thought he owned every room he walked into. I didn't move. Let him stand there in the cold. Let him feel the silence he'd thrown at me yesterday. He banged again. Helen, open the door. We need to talk. I sipped my coffee. Another bang. Helen, this is ridiculous. You're acting unstable. I laughed. Quiet, sharp. Unstable was the man who banned his wife's mother from Christmas in a house paid for with that mother's money. I finally walked to the door, not to open it, but to stand behind it. "Go home, Dylan," I said. "My door isn't for you." "Helen, stop being dramatic. Emily is crying." "Sssss." "Good," I said. "Maybe she'll finally feel something." He went silent. Then his voice dropped lower. "You need to apologize. You embarrassed us yesterday." That did it. I unlocked the door, not to invite him in, but to let him see exactly how wrong he was. I opened it just enough so he could look me in the eye. And I said, "The only embarrassment on that street is you." His jaw twitched. "We didn't say you were banned forever, just this Christmas." "You thought I'd swallow that, like I swallowed every bill, every payment, every insult your mother fed you about me." "Helen, this is getting out of hand." "No, you're losing control. There's a difference." He blinked. "Control of what?" I smiled. His face shifted. He recognized that smile. It was the one I only used when I'd already made a plan. "Go home, Dylan," I said. "Today isn't your day." I closed the door in his face. He shouted something through the wood. I didn't listen, because I had work to do. I walked back to the table, gathered all the paperwork into a neat stack, and opened my laptop. It took me 12 minutes to pull up the bank portal, 8 seconds to log in, 3 seconds for the balance to appear. The next payment, their next mortgage installment, was scheduled for 2 days from now. I hovered my finger over the Cancel Transfer button. 5 years of loyalty, 5 years of covering their mess, 5 years of being treated like a maid with a wallet. Dylan's voice echoed in my head. "You're acting unstable." I clicked. Transfer canceled. A small notification popped up. Effective immediately. I stared at those words until they became a kind of promise. Then I went a step further. I opened my credit card account and scrolled through the last years of purchases. The kitchen remodel, the granite counters, the stainless steel fridge Evelyn picked out because Emily deserves better, the expensive mixer that Emily used twice, the couch Dylan claimed his back pain required, all of it, every last piece of their fake perfection, paid by me. I opened a new document and started typing a list, every item, every bill, every dollar. Dylan liked to call himself the head of the household. I was about to give him the chance to act like one. The list reached 22 items before my phone buzzed again. A text from Emily this time. "Mom, please, Dylan is upset. Can we talk?" I typed back one sentence. "We will talk when I speak with the bank, not before." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then the phone stayed silent. Good. By noon, the list was complete. By 12:15, I had printed everything and placed it into a clean manila folder. At 12:30, I called the bank. "Hello, this is Margaret from Evergreen Financial. How can I help you today?" "Yes," I said. "I need to remove my name and financial responsibility from an account." "Certainly. May I ask why?" "Yes," I said. "Because I finally came to my senses." She paused, then chuckled. "Understood." It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to undo 5 years of being their safety net. When the call ended, I sat back and let the quiet settle. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to their chaos. Then, right on cue, my phone rang. Dylan. I answered. His voice came in hot, tight shaking. "Helen, did you cancel the payment?" "Yes." You can't just do that." "I can, and I did. Emily is panicking." "She should be. You should be. Evelyn should be. You're destroying our life." "No," I said. "I'm handing it back to you. It was never mine to carry." "What do you expect us to do? We'll fall behind." "That's what happens," I said, "when you stop living on someone else's money." Silence. Then he snapped, "You are cruel." "And you," I said, "are ungrateful." He breathed hard into the phone. "If you think you can just walk away, I already did." He tried again. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said. "I'm correcting one." And then I ended the call. I stood up, went to the window, and watched the winter sky shift from gray to silver. Somewhere across the city, Dylan was probably yelling, Emily was crying, Evelyn was furious. Good. This was the first strike. There were more coming. I didn't expect the call to come that fast. But people who live off someone else's money panic quickly when the faucet shuts off. It was 6:42 p.m. I had just finished reheating leftovers. I wasn't wasting another dollar on takeout for anyone, and the phone lit up with a name I knew would show up eventually. Evelyn Carter. Of course. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I answered. Her voice hit immediately, sharp like it had been waiting all day to strike. Helen, I assume you know why I'm calling. Yes. Your son finally had to act like an adult. Must be exhausting for him. A beat of silence. She didn't expect that. Then she snapped back. Don't get clever. I'm calling because your actions today were reckless, childish, and frankly, beneath the standards of people like us. There it was, the class line, the one she always hides behind. I leaned back in my chair. People like you? What exactly are you, Evelyn? We are a family of standing, she said quickly. A family with reputation, tradition, dignity, things you wouldn't understand. I smiled into the phone. And yet you needed my money to keep your kitchen lights on. She ignored that completely. Naturally, Emily is devastated. She's crying in her room. And Dylan is furious. You humiliated him. Good, I said. He finally felt something real. Helen, listen to me carefully, she continued, her tone icy. You are creating chaos during the holidays. Emily is overwhelmed, Dylan is overwhelmed, and you are... I cut in. Free. That's the word you're looking for. Helen, she bit out. Your behavior today proved exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas in the first place. I didn't respond at first. I let her talk. I wanted to hear every insult she'd been holding in her throat for years, and she did not disappoint. It's not personal, she said, voice sweetening but somehow getting crueler. It's simply that our traditions require a certain environment, certain expectations. Our gatherings are elegant, refined. You bring disorder. Disorder, I repeated. Yes, your energy doesn't match the tone of our home, and the way you involve yourself, financially, emotionally, can be overwhelming for people who operate at a higher level. We're not used to noise. I laughed. She hated the sound of that. Noise? I said. My money wasn't too noisy when you remodeled the kitchen. Helen? Or when you picked out that overpriced refrigerator. Helen, that's enough. Or the hardwood floors you insisted would raise the home's value. Her voice cracked. Those were investments. No, they were handouts, I said. From me, the same woman you said wasn't welcome at a dinner she paid for. That hit her. Hard. But Evelyn Carter wasn't the kind to back down. She recalibrated her tone instantly, going colder, sharper, hitting where she believed I'd finally break. You misunderstand the situation, she said. You are emotionally volatile. You overstep boundaries. You cling to Emily like she's still a child. Dylan has been patient, but your presence disrupts our stability. We simply need space from someone who, how do I say this politely, doesn't share our standards. Ah, there it was, the insult she thought she'd dressed up nicely. You mean someone who doesn't fit your class, I said plainly. If you insist on putting it crudely, she replied. Well, I said, crude is what happens when you stop lying. Evelyn exhaled sharply, the kind of breath rich people take when they're used to being the smartest person in the room. Helen, let's be clear, she said. Your daughter married into a higher circle. We are established, educated, we travel, we host, we maintain a home that reflects who we are. You... Me? I asked, leaning forward. What about me? You don't blend, she said quickly. You never have. Your presence unsettles our environment, and frankly, it embarrasses Emily when company is over. I let that sit. Let it fill the room, let it harden into something sharp and unforgettable. Then I spoke. Evelyn, Do you know what embarrasses me?" "What?" she hissed. "That my daughter let you speak for her, that she allowed you to decide the value of her own mother, that she married a man who hides behind you because he can't stand on his own." "You're twisting everything." "No," I said. "I'm cleaning it." She sucked in her breath. I didn't stop. "You want to talk about class? Fine, let's talk about class." I picked up the stack of papers from earlier, the list of everything I'd paid for. "Class," I said slowly, "is paying for your son's mortgage for 5 years while you insult me behind my back. Class is covering the cost of your broken dishwasher because your son said it wasn't their responsibility. Class is showing up to help raise a grandchild I never even got the chance to meet." Evelyn tried to interrupt, but I didn't give her space. "Class," I said, voice flat and deadly, "is what I had, and what you, not your son, not your family, what you spent." Could practically hear her lose footing. "Helen," she whispered, "this isn't necessary." "It is," I said. "It's overdue." More silence. Then she attempted one final blow. "You're making a fool of yourself." "No, I'm ending a pattern." "Helen, I canceled the mortgage," I said. She froze. "What?" "You heard me." Her voice cracked open. You can't do that." "I already did." "You're punishing Emily." "No," I said. "I'm letting Emily live in the home she chose without me." "Helen, listen." "Goodbye, Evelyn." "Helen?" I hung up. No shaking, no regret. Just clean, sharp certainty. My phone buzzed again. I turned it off. Then I made myself dinner. A decent one. The first in years that didn't taste like obligation. This wasn't revenge. This was balance. I woke up early the next morning, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and sat at my kitchen table scrolling through my phone. Not to call anyone, not to explain anything. Just to watch the storm begin, because I knew exactly what was coming. By 8:30, the first message arrived. From Evelyn. "We're leaving early. Be ready at the airport." Be ready. Like I was her driver, like I was on her payroll, like I still owed her something. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, Dylan texted, "Mom, bring snacks. Mom prefers fresh fruit on flights." Mom, not your mother. His mother. I sipped my coffee and smiled at the ceiling. By 10, 3 new messages. "Where are you?" "We're boarding zone in 15. Your parking pass is under Richard's name." Every line told me the same thing. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as logistics. At 10:30, the calls started. First Emily, then Dylan, then the Queen herself, Evelyn Carter. I didn't pick up. I wanted them to feel it. The silence, the loss of control, the free labor disappearing, because people like Evelyn only panic when their convenience is threatened. Around noon, I finally got a text from Emily. "Mom, please, they're waiting. Please just come." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I shouldn't have let them speak to you that way." Just, "Come tidy up the mess." That told me everything. I put my phone face down and finished my lunch. Around 1:30, I decided to go out, not to the airport, but to the grocery store. I picked up apples, detergent, a bag of coffee beans. I took my time. I even browsed the seasonal aisle. There were families laughing, choosing ornaments together, the kind of Christmas I hadn't had in years. By 2:30, my phone vibrated so violently I thought it might crack. 7 missed calls, 14 messages. I stepped outside the store to read them in the cold air. "Richard, we've been waiting at the curb for over an hour. This is ridiculous." "Evelyn, you have embarrassed us. This is unacceptable." Dylan, "Where are you?" Then Emily again, this time with a voice I hadn't heard from her since she was a little girl, shaking, scared. "Mom, Dad slipped on the curb. Please answer." I stopped walking, not because I was worried about Richard, because for the first time, Emily sounded like she understood something. Their world falls apart the moment I stop holding it up. I texted her back one sentence, "I am not coming." 10 seconds later, she called. I declined. Then Dylan called. Declined. Then Evelyn called. I answered. I wanted to hear it. The crack in her voice, the loss of power. "Helen," she snapped, "you need to get here now. We are stranded." "Are you?" I said. "How unfortunate." "Stop that tone," she barked. "You were supposed to drive us." "No," I said. "I was supposed to be included. You made sure I wasn't." "That is not the same thing." "It is exactly the same thing." Richard's voice exploded in the background. "This woman has lost her mind." I didn't even need to raise mine. "I didn't tell you to wait," I said. "You planned this trip without me. You excluded me from your Christmas, so go, without me." "You're being childish," Evelyn hissed. "No," I said. "I'm being done." There was a beat of dead, heavy silence. I could picture them standing in the cold, luggage piled, self-importance leaking out of them like air from a punctured tire. Evelyn finally spoke again, voice trembling with rage. "You left us here, at the airport, like animals." "You left me first," I said, "inside your own living room. You should have communicated." "I tried," I said. 5 years straight. You talked over me every time. You don't understand how humiliating this is." "Oh," I said. "I understand humiliation very well. You're the one learning it today." Richard practically roared. "You forget who you're talking to." "No," I said. "I finally remember." Another beat. Then Evelyn tried the last weapon people like her always use, guilt. "Emily is crying," she snapped. "Your daughter is crying because of you." "No," I said. "She's crying because she finally sees the truth." "And what truth is that?" "That you never wanted a mother-in-law," I said. "You wanted an assistant." Silence. Then I added, "And the assistant quit." I hung up. I didn't wait for the reaction. I didn't need to. They had felt it, the shift, the line they couldn't cross anymore. For the next hour, my phone didn't ring. They were scrambling, calling taxis, arguing with attendants, panicking without their unpaid driver. At 3:40, Emily sent one final text. "They're furious. We had to pay $68 for a ride. Dylan is yelling. Dad is shaking. Mom says you will regret today." I wrote back, "No, today is the first day I don't." Then I turned my phone off, put my groceries away, and sat down with a cup of tea. The city outside was quiet. Snow starting to fall. Lights turning on in windows across the street. For the first time in years, Christmas didn't feel like something happening to me. It felt like something I could choose. I leaned back in my chair, warm mug in hand, and whispered to the empty room, "Let them be angry." Because people who depend on your silence always panic when you finally speak, and I was only beginning. By 5 o'clock, the house was silent. My tea was still warm, and then bang, 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 the kind of pounding people do when they think they own the world. I didn't jump, I didn't rush. I walked to the door with the calm of someone who had stopped caring what anyone thought 2 hours ago. Another violent slam rattled the frame. "Helen!" Richard shouted. "Open this damn door!" I checked the peephole. Richard Carter. Face red, jaw clenched, humiliation dripping off him like sweat. I opened the door slowly. No fear, no apology. He barged inside without permission, exactly the kind of man he was. But I stepped aside just enough to let him pass. Not because he was welcome, because I wanted him to see how little power he actually had. Evelyn followed, hair frizzed, lipstick smudged, rage burning in her eyes. She looked like a woman who had lost a war she didn't even understand she was fighting. Dylan came last, face pale, hands shaking. He already knew this wasn't going to end well. Richard didn't waste a second. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he barked, stabbing a finger at me. "We waited at that airport for hours." I stared at him like he was a child throwing a tantrum. "I didn't ask you to wait," I said. He blinked. His brain didn't know what to do with that level of indifference. Evelyn shoved forward. "You humiliated us," she hissed. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing?" "Stop talking," I said. 2 words, sharper than a blade. She froze. People like Evelyn aren't used to being silenced. Certainly not by a woman they decided was beneath them. Dylan tried next. desperate to fix what couldn't be fixed. "Helen, please, Mom fell at the airport." "That's unfortunate," I said. "She should watch where she steps." His mouth fell open. He wasn't expecting that. Richard tried to regain control. "You need to apologize," he demanded. "Right now." "For what?" I asked. "For abandoning us like criminals." "You excluded me from Christmas," I said. I returned the favor. Evelyn gasped dramatically, like a soap opera actress. "That is not the same." "It's exactly the same," I said. Her jaw tightened so hard I thought it might crack. Dylan stepped between us, palms raised. "Let's all calm down." "No," I said. "You had 5 years to calm down. 5 years of taking from me. 5 years of acting like my wallet was your inheritance." Richard exploded again. "You listen to me." "No," I said. "I'm done listening to you." He pointed at my chest. "You think you can talk to me like that?" "I just did." "You don't understand who you're dealing with." "I understand perfectly," I said. "A man who hides behind his bank contacts because he has nothing else." Richard's face turned purple. You... Words failed him. Humiliation does that. Evelyn tried the high ground tactic next. It was always her favorite. "We trusted you," she said. "We treated you like family." "Family?" I laughed. "You treated me like staff." Her nostrils flared. She stepped closer. Her voice turned poisonous. "You made us look like fools." "You did that yourselves," I said. "I just stopped covering it up." Richard snapped. "You're going to fix this." "No," I said. "I'm going to finish it." They all froze. That sentence hit them exactly where it needed to. I walked past them into the living room and pointed at the door. "You 3 need to leave." Evelyn sputtered. "You can't throw us out of your house." "I can," I said. "And I am." Richard laughed. A short, bitter, delusional laugh. "You'll regret this. My name means something in this city." "So does mine," I said. "You just didn't bother learning it." Dylan tried again, voice cracking. "Helen, please, can we just talk?" "Talk?" I said. "Where was this energy when your mother told me to change my clothes so I wouldn't embarrass her? When she said I didn't fit her family image? When she told you that I was bad for your reputation?" Evelyn's face went white. "You weren't supposed to hear that," she whispered. "I heard everything," I said, "and I remembered all of it." Richard snarled. "You're out of line." "No," I said. "I'm finally in line with myself." I took one slow step toward them. "You treated me like an outsider in a house I paid for. You dismissed me in a kitchen full of things bought with my bank account. And you told your son's wife, my daughter, that she'd be better off without my influence." Dylan's head snapped toward his parents. "You said what?" Ah, there it was, the crack. Evelyn swallowed hard. "We only meant—" "Don't lie," I said. "You're not good at it." Richard slammed his fist on my table. "You think you can shame us?" "I don't have to shame you," I said. "You did that yourselves. I'm just giving you the mirror." Evelyn shook her head, voice trembling. "You've changed. You're not the sweet woman you used to be." "No," I said. "I stopped being useful. That's what scares you." More silence. I walked to the door, opened it wide, and gestured outward. "Time to go." Richard bristled. "This isn't over." "It is for me." He stepped forward like he wanted to intimidate me. I didn't move. "Let me make something clear," I said, voice steady as glass. "You didn't lose me today. You lost access." That one sentence hit all 3 of them like a slap. Evelyn looked shattered. Dylan looked nauseous. Richard looked destroyed. I nodded toward the open doorway. "Get out." And they did. Not because they wanted to, because I had finally shown them what real power looked like. I closed the door, locked it, set the chain. My house felt still, clean, mine. I picked up my tea again. It was still warm. For the first time in 5 years, so was I. And they hadn't even seen the real hit yet. 3 days passed. Not one call from Evelyn, not one apology, not even a cowardly text from Dylan. Silence. Then, on the fourth morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from the Willamette Chronicle. A headline flashed across the lock screen. Portland woman abandons elderly couple in holiday storm. I tapped it open, and there it was, my face, on the front page, under a photo ripped from my social media, captioned like I was a criminal. Sources say Helen Hartley left an elderly couple stranded at the airport in freezing temperatures. I read it once, twice, a third time, not because I was shocked, but because the level of stupidity was almost impressive. Richard had actually used his banking connections, his precious little network, to plant the story. Every word was designed to make me look heartless, unstable, ungrateful. A classic Carter move. When they lose control, they rewrite the narrative. The article quoted anonymous family sources. I could practically hear Evelyn's voice behind every line. She's unpredictable. She lashes out. She's jealous of our status. Status, their favorite word, their entire personality. I scrolled to the bottom. This incident raises questions about mental decline and emotional instability. Ah, there it was. The final blow. They weren't just attacking my reputation, they were attacking my sanity, the oldest, cheapest trick in the book. I set the phone down. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't change. No anger, just clarity. This wasn't family. This was war. I walked to the dining table and began setting it up like a command center. Laptop, chargers, notepads, highlighters, my financial folders, the receipts Evelyn thought I forgot, every document I had kept for 5 years. I laid them out like weapons. People think revenge requires rage. It doesn't. It requires organization. I pulled up Richard's LinkedIn page. Vice President, Regional Banking Board, charity events, golf tournaments, a carefully polished public persona built on the idea that he was a pillar of the community. Perfect. I opened Evelyn's Instagram next. All staged photos, holiday dinners, charity galas, her elegant life, her curated little empire of fake grace. I clicked on Emily's profile. Pictures of the house, the kitchen island I bought, the couch I paid for, the renovation Evelyn claimed was all Richard's money. Then I opened Dylan's. Photos of brunch, vacations, wine glasses, none paid for by him. And every time I clicked, I copied. Screenshots, dates, captions, comment threads, evidence. I sorted everything into folders with labels. Payments, furniture, renovations, medical bills, utilities, credit cards, fake posts, contradictions, receipts. 5 years of exploitation condensed into digital ammunition. The more I dug, the clearer the pattern became. They needed my money, but they hated needing it. A toxic combination. I pulled up the newspaper article again and took a screenshot of every paragraph, every false claim, every quote I would tear apart later with documentation. Then I opened a new page and typed 3 words at the top. They chose this because they did. They thought the public attack would scare me. They thought humiliation would silence me. They still hadn't learned who I was. I started drafting the plan, point by point, like a prosecution file. Bank transfers, mortgage proof, screenshot of Emily thanking me, Evelyn begging for temporary help with her credit card, Dylan admitting he lost a job but didn't want to stress his parents, receipts for the Christmas dinners I paid for, insurance policies under my name, my email agreeing to cover repairs, their text messages asking for 1 more month, photos of them bragging about luxury purchases during those months. By the time I was done, I had 56 pages of evidence, not accusations, not emotions, evidence. People can argue with stories. They can't argue with numbers. I leaned back, looked at the mountain of documentation, and said aloud, "They declared war." The room stayed silent, but the truth hung in the air like iron. I pulled up their address book next, the guest list for their annual Christmas Eve dinner. 12 names, 12 people who believed the Carters were some perfect, polished, upper-class family. 12 people who would absolutely not appreciate being used for a cover-up. I wrote each name on a sticky note and placed them in a neat row across the table. 12 seats, I said. 12 truths. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. You've gone too far. I didn't need to ask who sent it. I replied with one sentence. You haven't seen anything yet. Then I powered down the phone, opened my printer, and started printing every file in my folders. One stack, then another, and another. The papers came out warm, smelling like ink and justice. By midnight, I had 12 thick files, 40 pages each, labeled for each guest, neatly bound, perfectly organized. Tomorrow, I would walk into their Christmas Eve dinner without knocking. Tomorrow, every lie Richard and Evelyn had built would fall in front of the people they tried hardest to impress. Tomorrow, their reputation would burn. All I had to do was show up with the truth. And unlike them, I was not afraid of the truth. I stacked the files into my bag, zipped it closed, and rested my hand on top of it. For the first time in years, I felt myself breathe fully. Not because I was angry, but because justice, real justice, was finally on the table. And it was going to be served cold. Christmas Eve arrived like a blade. Portland was quiet. Sky overcast, air sharp. The kind of cold that made bad people hope karma would forget them. Karma didn't forget. It drove a silver sedan and carried a 40-page dossier. I placed my bag on this passenger seat and adjusted the files inside. 12 thick packets, identical, heavy, undeniable. All labeled, all lethal. Each one a mirror the Carters would be forced to stare into. I started the engine and whispered, "Tonight, the room dies first, then their reputation." I parked 2 houses down from Emily's place. Cars lined both sides of the street. Mercedes, Lexus, BMW. Their guests were already inside, drinking wine bought with my money, sitting on chairs I paid for, admiring decorations Evelyn bragged about as if she'd earned any of it. Through the front window, I saw warm lights, clinking glasses, laughter. Fake wealthy laughter. I stepped out of the car, locked it, and walked up the sidewalk. My boots hit the pavement with a rhythm that felt like a countdown. At the front door, I didn't knock. I walked straight in. The door wasn't even locked. Of course. People like the Carters think money protects them from consequences. The house smelled like rosemary, butter, and arrogance. Voices floated from the dining room. A woman was saying, "Evelyn, your home is just stunning, truly elegant. Not everyone has such refined taste." Evelyn laughed in that breathy, desperate way she does when she's performing. "Oh, well, Richard and I have worked very hard." Worked. That word alone nearly made me laugh out loud. I stepped into the doorway. The room froze. 12 people at the table. Emily at one end, Evelyn beside her, Richard at the head, pretending he was king, and this was his court. Forks hung midair, wine glasses paused halfway to mouths. The silence was instant, immediate, severing. Exactly what I wanted. Emily stood up first. "Mom, what are you—" I raised one hand. She sat down. Not because I forced her, but because she finally understood something. Tonight, I wasn't the woman they thought they could control. I was the woman coming to collect a debt. Richard pushed back his chair. "Helen, this is a private—" I dropped my bag onto the marble buffet table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Every head jerked toward it. I unzipped the bag slowly, deliberately, like a surgeon preparing to cut. "Private?" I said. "You should have thought of that before dragging me into the newspaper." A ripple went through the room. One woman gasped softly. A man muttered, "Newspaper?" Richard swallowed. Evelyn blinked rapidly, her cheeks turning pale under the makeup she'd layered on for the photos she expected her guests to take. I pulled out the first packet and set it in front of the nearest guest. Then the second, then the third. One by one, I circled the entire table. 12 guests, 12 packets, each packet labeled with their names, each packet filled with 5 years of evidence documenting every dollar I'd poured into this household while they spit on my existence. I didn't speak until the last packet dropped onto the table. Then I went to the head of the room, stood next to Richard, and said clearly, "Let's make sure you all know who you're having dinner with tonight." Richard stiffened. "Sit," I told him. He sat. The room went dead silent. A woman with pearls finally opened her folder. I watched her eyebrows shoot upward. Then I watched the horror crawl across her face as line after line of transactions hit her. One of the men flipped a page and whispered, "My God." Another guest looked directly at Evelyn. "You said your family funded the renovations." I cut in calmly. "They didn't. I did." I pointed to page 3. "That's the invoice for the kitchen island Evelyn bragged about on Instagram. $4,900, charged to my account." People flipped pages faster, page after page, evidence after evidence. My handwriting, their requests, dates, receipts, screenshots, bank statements. No yelling, no drama, just facts. Facts sharp enough to peel skin. One woman pressed a hand to her chest. "All of this? You paid for their mortgage?" "For 5 years," I said. The man beside her looked stunned. "You paid all of it?" "Yes," Evelyn snapped, desperate. "She offered. She insisted. We never forced her." And I turned to her. "You're right. You didn't force me. You manipulated me." I looked at the guests. They told me I wasn't appropriate for their Christmas dinner because of my cooking, my background, my age, my class. A few guests stiffened uncomfortably. They said the table needed refined conversation, that I couldn't keep up. Evelyn's voice cracked. "That's not. You're twisting." I pulled out a printed screenshot from my bag and held it up. It was her message, word for word. "I don't want my parents embarrassed. Your mother doesn't fit." People inhaled sharply. Richard's jaw twitched. Emily whispered, "Oh my God." I placed the screenshot on the table. Next, I lifted the printed newspaper story. "So when I stopped paying the mortgage," I said, "they panicked, and this," I tapped the article, "was their solution." The guests stared. Richard swallowed and said under his breath, "Helen, let's discuss this privately." "No." My voice cut through the room like a blade. "There is nothing private about humiliation you made public." Someone murmured, "She's right." I stepped forward, standing where everyone could see me. "They tried to shame me," I said, "to make me look unstable, to make me look cruel, to make me look small." I shook my head slowly. Small is the last thing I am. Behind me, Evelyn grabbed Richard's arm. "Say something. Don't just sit there." But he didn't, because for the first time, he realized something. He had no control over this moment, not with me, not with the guests, not with the truth. A man at the far end looked at me, then at Richard. "You had her paying your bills while you—" He gestured to the table, the decor, the luxury. "Pretended this was all yours?" I let the silence answer for him. Across the table, a woman closed her folder. Then she said the 5 words that landed like a hammer. "This is absolutely disgraceful." The room went still. Richard lowered his eyes. Evelyn's face crumpled. Emily covered her mouth, ashamed. I lifted my bag. "I'll leave you to your dinner," I said. "Enjoy it. It's the last one I'll ever pay for." No one spoke. No one moved. No one breathed. The room had died exactly the way I promised. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. People who are done with hope don't need rest. People who are ready for war don't blink. By morning, I had my coat on, my hair pinned back, and every document sorted in a folder so thick it could break a jaw if I swung it hard enough. And maybe I would, metaphorically. I'm not violent. I'm accurate. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, I parked in front of Emily's house. The house I paid for, the house her in-laws bragged about, the house Evelyn pretended was their pride and joy. $362,000 of upgrades. Exactly. I stepped out of the car and walked up the driveway. Slowly. On purpose. Let the neighborhood see. Let them watch the mother they tried to erase walk straight into her child's life again. The front door opened before I knocked. Evelyn stood there in her cream cashmere sweater like she was waiting for a photo shoot. She opened her mouth, probably to ask what I was doing there. I raised a hand. "No, you don't speak first. Not today." Her jaw tightened. That alone was worth the trip. Emily peeked from behind her, eyes red, exhausted. Dylan walked in late behind them, like a background extra who thought he was a main character. I looked at all three and said, "Good morning. I'm here to give you something." Dylan scoffed. "What could you possibly give us?" "Consequences," I said. "But let's start small." I stepped inside without being invited. After all, I paid for the flooring under my feet. Evelyn moved to block me, but I looked her dead in the eyes. "You touch me, and I file a claim for assault. In your house. That I financed. Try me." She froze. Exactly what I wanted. I walked into the living room, placed my folder on the coffee table, and sat down like I owned the place. Because I did. Then I looked at them and delivered the sentence that made Dylan physically jerk back. "I'm hosting Christmas dinner." Silence. The kind that squeezes the air out of a room. Evelyn blinked. "You? Hosting Christmas?" "Yes," I said. "At my home. My real home. The one you didn't bother to ask about because you assumed I was— What was the word you used, Evelyn? Oh, right. Dependent." Her eyes widened. Emily gasped. Dylan frowned like the math wasn't mathing. Emily finally spoke. "Mom, why? Why now?" "Because," I said, leaning forward, "you told me you weren't expecting me, and I want to make sure you never forget who helped build this life you take for granted." Evelyn huffed. "We're not going." "Yes, you are," I said calmly. "All of you. I already sent invitations." "To who?" she barked. "Your friends, your extended family, Dylan's colleagues, the parents from Matthew's school, everyone who matters to you socially." Evelyn's face drained. I didn't smile. Not yet. "You invited my network?" she demanded. "No," I corrected. "I invited your audience, because you seem to care more about them than your own daughter's mother." Dylan stepped forward. "This is insane. We're not attending some pity dinner." I tapped the folder. "No pity, just facts. Financial records, receipts, bank statements, 5 years' worth. And on Christmas, I'm showing all of it." Evelyn's voice cracked. "You wouldn't." I looked deadly calm. "You pushed me out of a holiday I paid for. You humiliated me. You treated me like help. Now, you get the full truth." Emily looked terrified, but in the way someone does when a window finally opens in a burning room. "Mom," she whispered, What are you planning to show them?" "The truth," I said. "Every payment, every bill, every debt of yours I covered while they pretended I was nothing but baggage." Dylan snapped. "That's private." "So was excluding me," I answered. "You dragged this into the social arena. I'm simply meeting you on your battlefield." Evelyn swallowed hard. "You wouldn't dare embarrass your own daughter like that." I turned to Emily. "You embarrassed yourself by letting them turn you into someone small." Emily choked. That one hit her. It needed to. I stood, gathered the folder, and headed for the door. "You'll be there at 6 p.m. sharp," I said. "Christmas Eve. Don't be late. I want the room full before you walk in." Dylan barked, "We're not coming!" I stopped at the doorway, turned slightly, and delivered the coldest line of the morning. "Oh, you'll come, because if you don't—" I tapped the folder again. "I drop copies of these documents into every mailbox in this neighborhood, and trust me, nothing spreads faster than the truth wrapped in scandal." Evelyn's hand reached the back of a chair to steady herself. Good. As I stepped outside, Emily followed me out onto the porch. "Mom, do you hate me?" Her voice trembled. I didn't soften. Not anymore. "No," I said. "But I'm done rescuing you from the people you choose over me." She cried silently, and for the first time, she didn't hide it from her in-laws. Progress. I started walking down the steps. "Mom, what do I wear?" she called out. I paused, turned slightly, and answered, "Wear something honest." Then I got into my car, shut the door gently, and let the cold air wash over me. Behind me, the porch was quiet. Not a word. not a breath. Just the sound of a family realizing they were no longer the ones in control. And I drove away, knowing one thing: Christmas would never be the same. Christmas Eve arrived like a blade, cold, sharp, and meant to cut. By 5:40 p.m., my house was already full. Every invitation I sent, accepted. Dylan's coworkers, Evelyn's friends, Richard's business partners, parents from Matthew's school, 3 couples from their church group, even Richard's old college friend who loved gossip more than retirement. 42 people, all dressed nicely, all curious, all waiting for a show they didn't know they were starring in. I greeted them one by one, calm, collected, deliberate. "That table over there," I said politely, "is for the Carters." I made sure everyone heard it. People exchanged looks. Good. Let them anticipate the storm. The dining room lights were warm, the silverware polished, the candles lit, and right in the center of the table sat a single, thick binder. The dossier. Every receipt, every payment, every lie. At 5:58, the room buzzed softly. Someone whispered, "Are they coming? I heard she's Emily's mother. Didn't they kick her out of Christmas? Why would someone do that?" I pretended not to hear, but I heard every word. At 6:00 p.m. sharp, the front door opened. Evelyn walked in first, face stiff, chin high, fake confidence cracking at the edges. Richard was behind her, wearing the kind of smile men put on when they're terrified but refuse to admit it. Dylan followed with Emily, who looked pale but awake in a way I hadn't seen in years. Every conversation stopped. Forks paused midair, chairs froze halfway pulled out. The room didn't just go silent, it stopped breathing. Evelyn scanned the room, saw who was there, and her face almost collapsed. Almost. "Oh," she murmured, "you invited everyone." "That's right," I said. "Have a seat." The 4 of them sat at the designated table, center of the room, every face pointed at them like witnesses at a trial. I waited until the tension was thick enough to slice. Then I stepped forward. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. Before dinner, I'd like to clear up a small misunderstanding." People leaned in. The Carters stiffened. I placed a hand on the thick binder. "This," I said, "is the last 5 years of my financial support for this family." A gasp rippled through the room. Richard shot up from his chair. "This is inappropriate." I held up a finger. "One more word, Richard, and I show them the section labeled, 'Debt your son hid from your tax attorney.' Sit down." He sat. I opened the binder to the first page. A receipt. $3,100 for monthly mortgage support. Dated 5 years ago. "Some of you may not know this," I said, "but my daughter and her husband live in a house I helped secure. Every month, I covered their mortgage while they found stability." People murmured. Someone whispered, 5 years? I turned the page. The kitchen remodel, $28,600. The hardwood flooring, $14,900. The master bath upgrade, $22,400. "And this entire home renovation," I said calmly, "paid by me, not by the Carters." Evelyn clenched her jaw until it trembled. I continued. "School fees for Matthew, emergency expenses, groceries, medical bills, lost wages during Dylan's career transition, all on me." I shut the binder loud enough to echo. "And despite all that, they told me I was not welcome for Christmas." Gasps, whispers. Someone at the back muttered, "You're kidding." I wasn't. I looked directly at Evelyn. "You told your friends I was clingy. You told people I was desperate for attention. You told them I was a burden Emily would soon outgrow." Evelyn's face turned chalk white. "And after using my money, my time, my help, you erased me." I let the silence sit there until even the walls felt ashamed. Dylan stood. "We didn't erase you." "Yes, you did," I cut in. "You erased me the moment I stopped being convenient." Then I addressed the room. "I'm not showing you this to shame them. I'm showing this because when someone spends 5 years tearing your dignity apart, the truth becomes the only gift worth giving. A woman near the door whispered, "Oh my God!" I walked to Emily. "I raised you to be strong," I said quietly, but loud enough for the room. "Not to let people hide you in someone else's shadow." Emily's eyes filled. She didn't look away. Dylan shot up again. "You're ruining Christmas!" "No," I said. "I'm resetting the record." Then I delivered the line that made Evelyn's hand fly to her chest. "I will no longer finance the lifestyle of people who treat me like I'm disposable." Someone exhaled sharply. "Jesus!" I opened the binder again and turned it around so everyone could see the final page. A screenshot of the text message, the one that started all this. "We're not expecting you for Christmas." The room erupted. Whispers hit like firecrackers. Several people looked at the Carters like they were diseased. Emily covered her mouth. Her whole body shook. She whispered, "Mom, I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. "And this time, sorry matters." And then I faced Evelyn and Richard. "You wanted an audience? Here it is." Evelyn's voice broke. "Please, don't do this. It's already done." I closed the binder one final time. "Dinner will be served in 10 minutes. Anyone who wishes to stay, stay. Anyone who wants to leave because you can't face what you've done. The door is open." No one left. Not one person. The Carters sat frozen, exposed under every light in the room. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the one pushed aside. I was the one standing at the center, steady, calm, unstoppable. Christmas had officially begun. Dinner had started, but half the room wasn't eating. Everyone pretended to cut their food, but their eyes stayed glued to the Carters, watching, waiting, judging. Some moments in life don't need music. Humiliation provides its own soundtrack. Evelyn sat motionless, her fork untouched. Richard's hands shook so badly he couldn't pick up his glass without clinking it against the plate. Dylan fidgeted, wiping sweat from his forehead like the room was on fire. And Emily looked like she had swallowed truth whole, and it lodged in her chest. After 5 minutes of suffocating quiet, she finally broke. Her voice shook through the entire dining room. "Mom, please, come outside with me." I stood without a word. She followed me to the backyard, the place where she once helped me hang Christmas lights when she was 17. The same hands now trembled at her sides. The moment the door shut behind us, Emily's face crumpled. "Mom," she whispered, I didn't know. I didn't know how much you paid. I didn't know Dylan said those things. I didn't know Evelyn." Her breath hitched. "I didn't know they were using you." I didn't move closer. I didn't hug her. Not yet. "Emily," I said quietly, "you didn't want to know." She froze. "Every time I tried to talk to you," I continued, "you said, 'Mom, it's fine,' or 'Mom, they're helping me,' or 'Mom, don't make trouble.'" Tears streamed down her face. "You didn't ask questions because the answers would have destroyed the life you were clinging to." She shook her head slowly, as if denial could rewind the last 5 years. "I wasn't strong," she whispered. "I wanted to be accepted. I wanted belonging." "And instead," I said, "you got owned." Emily crumbled. Her legs buckled, and she sank onto the cold stone steps like the truth had weight. "They treated me like I was one of them," she cried, voice cracking. "Like I mattered. But I didn't, did I? I was convenient, and I dragged you into it." "You didn't drag me," I said. "I walked in, but I'm walking out now." A sob ripped out of her. One of those deep, painful sobs that come from the ribcage, not the throat. "Mom, I don't want to lose you." I took a breath, steady, slow, deliberate. "Then stop being the daughter they taught you to be." She stared up at me like a child again, lost, afraid, wanting direction. I gave it to her. "You need to decide," I said. "Are you part of a family that uses, manipulates, controls? Or are you part of a family that tells the truth, even when it hurts?" Emily looked toward the house. Through the window, she could see her husband and his parents drowning in embarrassment. She flinched. "I built my life around Dylan," she whispered, "and every part of it feels fake now." "That's because it is." She swallowed a sob. "Do you hate me?" she asked again, quieter this time, younger. "No," I said softly, "but I hate what you became to fit into their world." Emily covered her mouth with both hands and cried so hard her shoulders shook. I let her. This wasn't cruelty. This was her spine regrowing. After a long moment, she whispered, "Mom, what do I do?" "You stand up," I said. And she did, barely, shaking, but she stood. We walked back inside. The second the door opened, every eye turned to us. The Carters looked like they were waiting for execution. Emily didn't sit. She stood behind her chair, hands trembling, breath uneven. "Mom," she whispered, and when I nodded, she faced the entire room. "Everyone," she said, voice thin but carrying, "I owe you the truth." Silence fell again. My husband and his parents made decisions without me. They spent money that wasn't theirs. They hid how much my mother helped. They used her, and they told me to stay quiet. Her voice cracked, but she continued. "I won't stay quiet anymore." Evelyn shot up. "Emily, sit down." "No!" The word burst out of her with a force that stunned the room. It stunned even her. "You don't get to silence me anymore," Emily said, trembling hard. "You don't get to shame her. You don't get to treat her like she's beneath you, because she isn't. She never was. You are." Evelyn's mouth dropped open. Richard stood next. "This is ridiculous." "No," Emily barked. "This is reality." She turned to Dylan and her whole body shook. "You promised to protect me," she said. "But you let them control you. You let them control us. You let them control me. And you let them humiliate my mother." Dylan's voice came out small. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." The room went dead still. Emily's next words cracked like lightning. "Mom, if you walk out now, I'm walking with you." A collective gasp filled the room. Evelyn grabbed the table edge. Richard lost whatever dignity he had left. Dylan's eyes went wide with panic. I watched it all calmly. This was their collapse, not mine. Emily turned to me, raw, shaking, pleading. "Please," she whispered, "don't leave without me." This was the moment, the real breaking point, the final cut. I stepped closer, looked her in the eyes and said, "I won't leave you, if you choose yourself this time." She sobbed, not from weakness, but from recognition. Then she said something I will never forget. "I choose me, Mom. I choose us." That was the collapse. The moment her old life died. Behind her, the Carters sat, shattered. Their power gone, their reputation gutted, their social circle watching every second. Evelyn reached a desperate hand toward Emily. "Sweetheart." Emily stepped back, like the touch was poison. "Don't call me that," she said. "You never meant it." And with that, it was over. The room didn't cheer, they didn't clap, they just watched. Breathless, stunned, silent. Because everyone knew a family had just fallen apart, and a daughter had finally stood up. I walked to Emily, placed a hand on her back, and said, "Come on, we're going home." And for the first time in years, she followed me without looking over her shoulder. Behind us, the Carters sat in the ruins of the world they built. And for once, they had no one left to blame. The next morning, my house was quiet. Not empty, just quiet in the way peace feels after years of noise. Emily slept on the couch, wrapped in an old blanket she used in high school. Her breathing was soft, uneven, like someone learning how to rest for the first time. I stood in the doorway watching her, not with pity, with recognition. People don't break in one day, and they don't heal in one day either. But she had taken the first real step in 5 years. When she woke up, her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to speak. "Good morning," I said simply. She whispered back, "Morning, Mom." Emily sat up slowly. Did you mean it last night?" she asked. "That you won't leave me if I choose myself?" "Yes," I said. "I meant every word." She nodded. A small, fragile nod, the kind that carries more courage than a shout. "Mom, I'm scared," she admitted. "Everything feels like it's falling apart." "It's not falling apart," I said. "It's falling into place." She exhaled, a shaky breath, but freer than yesterday. Then she reached into her purse and took out a folded letter. "I got this last week," she said. "A job offer. I didn't tell Dylan because he said it would affect the family schedule." I took the letter. A hospital clinic downtown was offering her a full-time administrative position. Good pay, full benefits. I looked at her. "Do you want it?" Emily swallowed. "Yes, I think I do." "Then take it." Her face broke. Relief, fear, hope, all at once. "And what about the house?" she asked. "That's their problem now." She nodded again. "I know you won't pay the mortgage," she said quietly, "and I'm not asking you to." "Good." "Emily," I said, "my love remains. My money does not." She flinched at the sentence because she finally understood it. Slowly, she slid her hand across the couch cushion until her fingers brushed mine. "I'm going to do better," she whispered. "I'm going to be someone you're proud of again." "You already took the hardest step," I said. "The rest is yours to build." She held my hand tighter. Around noon, she stood up, grabbed her jacket, and said, "I'm going to the clinic. I'm going to sign the contract." "Do you want me to drive you?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I need to do this myself." "Good girl." She hugged me, tight, desperate, real. "I love you, Mom. I love you too." And then she left, not running away, walking toward something new. That afternoon, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea, my favorite Earl Grey. The winter air was cold, but my chest wasn't. My phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. "The Carters are blaming you for everything." I smiled. Another text. "They say you ruined their Christmas." I took a sip of tea. Then a third text. "People at the party are talking. They're on your side." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Some battles end with shouting. Others end with silence. Mine ended with truth. As the sun started to set, Emily came back. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, but her eyes were different, alive, focused, steady. "Mom," she said, breathless, "I signed the contract." "Good. And I found an apartment near work, a small one, month to month. I put the deposit down." I raised an eyebrow. "That was fast." She smiled, a small, nervous smile. "I finally want something that's mine." I stood up and hugged her. "I'm proud of you," I said. "Not because you left them, because you chose you." Emily's voice cracked against my shoulder. "I won't go back to them," she whispered. "Ever." "You won't need to." We walked inside together. The living room felt different. Not because it changed, but because she did. She sat beside me, curled her legs up, and said, "Mom, what do we do now?" I looked at her, at the woman she was, at the woman she was becoming. "We do what we should have done years ago," I said. "We start over, with boundaries, with honesty, with a life that belongs to us." Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. For the first time in 5 years, she felt like my daughter again. The voiceover of my life ended the way every hard-earned victory should. Quiet, steady, honest. If someone tells you you're not expected, don't beg to enter their door. Don't prove your worth. Don't shrink yourself to fit their table. I looked out through the window. The world was cold, but I wasn't. The final line came naturally. If they don't expect you, show up with boundaries. Show up with truth. Show up for yourself. I set my tea down. "And then," I whispered, "give yourself the gift they never gave you." I stepped onto the porch, breathed in the winter air, and finished it. "Merry Christmas to me." And that was the Christmas I finally stopped fighting for a place in someone else's home and started choosing my own peace instead. Life gets quieter when you remove the people who profit from your silence. It also gets lighter, warmer, and far more honest. If there's one thing this story taught me, it's this: love without boundaries becomes survival, but love with boundaries becomes freedom. Thank you for listening to my story today. If it touched something in your heart or reminded you of your own strength, I'm glad you were here. Before you go, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I read every message, and it means more than you know. Take care of yourselves, take back your peace, and I'll see you in the next story.